Everly Layton had always known her beauty was as much a curse as it was a blessing. With silky, midnight black hair cascading down her slender shoulders, mesmerizing emerald green eyes framed by long, dark lashes, and porcelain skin that seemed almost luminous under moonlight, Everly attracted attention wherever she went. But that beauty brought with it unwanted whispers, jealousy, and an endless trail of broken hearts. At 28, Everly had become an enigma in the vibrant chaos of Manhattan's elite social circles, coveted but untouchable, desired yet mysterious. Men fell over themselves to earn just a passing glance, but none could ever claim to truly know her heart. Her friends warned her she was playing a dangerous game by guarding her emotions so carefully, but Everly saw vulnerability as weakness. Love, she'd learned long ago, led only to pain. Tonight, dressed in an elegant black gown that flowed gracefully around her slender figure, she attended one of New York's most prestigious charity galas. The room sparkled with extravagance, crystal chandeliers shimmering overhead, tuxedo-clad men and beautifully dressed women exchanging polite laughter and hollow pleasantries. Everly felt a familiar emptiness as she sipped champagne, skillfully deflecting admirers with practiced grace. The men were charming, wealthy, and ambitious, but their intentions bored her. They wanted a trophy, not her soul. She was just contemplating an early escape when an inexplicable sensation prickled the back of her neck, compelling her to turn. That was when her gaze collided with the penetrating steel-gray eyes of Karsten Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Technologies, a billionaire whose reputation was as formidable as his fortune. Tall, powerfully built, and exuding a quiet dominance, Karsten was enigmatic and notoriously elusive, avoiding publicity and scandal with precision. Their eyes locked across the crowded room, and something within Everly shifted. It was unlike anything she'd experienced before, a sudden fluttering deep in her chest, a warmth spreading through her veins. Unnerved yet fascinated, she struggled to break the invisible bond, but found herself frozen, utterly transfixed by the magnetic force of his gaze. Karsten seemed to sense her turmoil and smiled, a slow, assured smile that hinted he knew exactly the effect he was having on her. Without breaking eye contact, he moved effortlessly across the floor toward her, his presence commanding attention as guests subtly parted to make way. "Miss Layton," he spoke softly, his voice deep, rich, and surprisingly gentle. It carried an undercurrent of mystery and authority that made her pulse quicken. "I've heard whispers about you, but none do justice to reality." Everly felt her composure falter momentarily but quickly regained control, lifting an eyebrow slightly. "And which whispers are those, Mr. Hawthorne? The flattering ones, or the scandalous?" Karsten's eyes glinted with amusement, appreciating her wit. "Both, perhaps. But I find reality always surpasses rumors." He extended his hand gracefully, a silent invitation. Everly hesitated only a heartbeat before placing her slender hand in his, noting the warmth of his touch and the firm yet gentle way his fingers enveloped hers. "Dance with me," he commanded softly, not a request but not quite a demand, a simple certainty that she would agree. Everly followed him wordlessly to the polished marble dance floor, hyper-aware of the curious eyes now openly staring at the unexpected pairing. She felt the heat of his palm against the small of her back as he drew her close, their bodies effortlessly aligning as though made for each other. As the music swelled softly around them, Everly struggled to steady her racing heartbeat, realizing how dangerous this man could be for someone determined never to fall in love. "You seem nervous," Karsten murmured gently into her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "I'm not nervous," Everly replied evenly, trying to convince herself more than him. "Just cautious." "Wise," he said approvingly, his eyes fixed intently on hers. "Men are predictable creatures. They desire most what they can't easily have. Your caution makes you all the more captivating." Everly felt a strange vulnerability beneath his penetrating gaze. "And you?" she challenged softly, forcing confidence into her voice. "Are you predictable too?" Karsten's smile softened, his eyes darkening slightly. "No, Everly. I'm the most unpredictable man you'll ever meet." And that might be precisely why you're drawn to me. She didn't answer, unwilling to confirm he was right. Instead, they danced in silence, each step drawing her deeper into an unspoken intimacy, the air around them charged with tension that left her breathless. Finally, Karsten broke the silence. "Everly, you fascinate me. But you should be warned, I'm not the kind of man who plays games. If you open the door, even slightly, there's no going back." His tone was quiet but deadly serious, causing a shiver to trace her spine. Everly knew she was standing on the edge of something that could shatter every carefully constructed wall she'd built around her heart. Part of her wanted to run, protect herself from inevitable pain, but a stronger part felt compelled, irresistibly drawn to the dangerous promise he embodied. Gathering courage, she met his gaze boldly, her voice steady. "Maybe I'm tired of caution." Karsten's eyes sparked with admiration, surprise, and an unmistakable flicker of desire. Without another word, he tightened his hold gently, pulling her subtly closer, letting her feel the intensity of his hidden strength. As the music drifted away, Everly felt a powerful sense that tonight would irrevocably change her life. Karsten released her reluctantly, leaning close to whisper softly against her ear. "Leave with me, Everly." His words sent heat flooding her veins, her pulse racing with excitement and apprehension. Yet, despite every warning instinct screaming at her to refuse, she met his gaze again and answered clearly, defiantly. "Yes." Everly took his outstretched hand once more, stepping boldly into the unknown, fully aware she was walking straight into a storm, one from which there might be no return. The ride to Karsten Hawthorne's penthouse was silent, charged with an unspoken tension that filled the enclosed space of his sleek, chauffeured sedan. Everly felt her heart race as Manhattan's lights blurred past the tinted windows, reflecting her own swirling emotions. She glanced discreetly at Karsten, who sat beside her, his jaw firm, his gaze fixed ahead, lost in his own enigmatic thoughts. Every instinct told Everly she was taking a dangerous risk. She barely knew Karsten beyond public rumors of his wealth, power, and fierce protectiveness of privacy. Yet an undeniable force drew her toward him. She sensed something beneath his polished exterior, a vulnerability he carefully masked, an intensity that both fascinated and frightened her. When the car slowed to a stop in front of a towering glass and steel high-rise on the Upper East Side, Karsten finally spoke, his deep voice cutting through the heavy silence. "We're here." Everly exhaled slowly, steadying herself. Karsten helped her out, gently yet possessively taking her hand as he led her into the lavish lobby. Marble floors shone beneath crystal chandeliers, and the doorman nodded respectfully as they passed, though his eyes betrayed curiosity at the rare sight of Karsten Hawthorne bringing someone home. Inside the private elevator, Karsten turned to face her directly, his intense gaze searching her eyes for reassurance. "Everly," he said softly, voice edged with seriousness, "if at any moment you wish to leave, you only need to tell me." She studied him closely, touched by the sincerity in his words, the genuine concern hidden beneath his powerful demeanor. "I came willingly, Karsten," she assured him gently. "I'm here because I choose to be." He nodded once, satisfaction briefly softening his stern expression, though his eyes still held uncertainty. As the elevator doors opened silently to his penthouse suite, Everly stepped into another world entirely, one of opulence tempered by tasteful minimalism. Panoramic windows revealed a breathtaking view of Manhattan's glittering skyline, lights scattered like gems against the velvet darkness. "You have an impressive view," she murmured softly, stepping closer to the glass. Karsten joined her quietly, his gaze fixed not on the skyline but on her delicate profile illuminated by moonlight. "I rarely notice it," he admitted quietly. "But tonight, with you here, it seems entirely new." Everly glanced at him, heartbeat quickening at the raw honesty in his words. "Do you bring many women here, Karsten?" "No," he answered firmly, his voice resolute yet gentle. "Privacy is something I fiercely guard. Bringing you here means something to me, more than you realize." She turned fully to face him, her eyes wide with uncertainty, vulnerability shining through despite her best efforts. Why me? Karsten stepped closer, carefully placing a gentle hand under her chin, tilting her face softly upwards. Because when I look at you, Everly, I don't see merely your beauty, I see pain, loneliness, fear. I see someone hiding herself behind perfection, someone just as guarded as I am. His words pierced through every barrier she'd carefully built, exposing emotions she'd never shared with anyone. Everly felt suddenly exposed, dangerously close to losing control. And that doesn't scare you? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. No, Karsten answered sincerely, his eyes never wavering from hers. It draws me closer. Because it mirrors my own fears, my own darkness. Slowly, cautiously, he lowered his mouth toward hers, waiting a breath away, silently asking permission. Everly's heart thundered violently, pulse roaring in her ears. Unable to resist, she closed the distance herself, lips brushing his gently at first, tentatively, exploring the taste and feel of him. His kiss deepened, his hands gently holding her waist as passion ignited fiercely between them. The barriers they both had built so carefully began to crumble away as the kiss intensified. Everly felt emotions she'd suppressed for years, desire, longing, even tenderness, surge uncontrollably to the surface. Her fingers tangled in his dark hair, pulling him impossibly closer, desperate to feel more of him, to lose herself completely. Yet, amidst passion, Everly felt something deeper, a connection forming far beyond mere physical desire. Karsten held her as though she were something precious, rare, fragile, a feeling she'd never experienced with any man before. When they finally drew apart, breathless and dizzy with intensity, Karsten gently pressed his forehead against hers, whispering softly, "You terrify me, Everly Layton." "Why?" she asked, voice unsteady with emotion. "Because," he murmured gently, "I already know I won't be able to forget you after tonight, and that makes you very dangerous to a man who vowed never to love." Everly's heart twisted painfully, understanding exactly what he meant. "Maybe we're both dangerous," she whispered, placing her palm gently on his chest, feeling the rapid, rhythmic beating of his heart beneath. He took her hand carefully, intertwining their fingers. "Then perhaps we're destined for destruction," Karsten said softly, a quiet resignation in his voice. "But tonight, I no longer care." Without another word, he guided her deeper into the penthouse, into a luxurious bedroom where moonlight spilled across silk sheets. Everly surrendered willingly, letting Karsten lead her into territory unknown. Each touch between them spoke volumes, every caress carrying a promise neither dared voice aloud. Hours later, as dawn painted the city skyline with faint strokes of gold and lavender, Everly woke slowly, warmth flooding her body as memories of the night returned vividly. Yet, reaching beside her, she found only empty space. She sat up abruptly, anxiety tightening her chest. Karsten was nowhere to be seen. On the bedside table lay a folded note, his handwriting precise yet filled with painful regret. "Everly, forgive me. You deserve more than what I can offer. Last night was beautiful, but it must remain a memory. I beg you not to seek me out again." Everly's hands trembled, disbelief quickly replaced by anger and humiliation. Confusion and hurt warred inside her heart. Karsten had opened doors within her she hadn't known existed, then abandoned her without explanation. She dressed swiftly, feeling ashamed yet determined. Leaving the penthouse, she wondered bitterly why a man who had seemed so genuine, so vulnerable, would vanish so cruelly. But as she stepped onto the Manhattan streets, Everly promised herself one thing clearly: she wouldn't let Karsten Hawthorne get away so easily, not without answers. He had awakened something powerful within her, and she intended to understand exactly why he had fled from it. In the days following Karsten Hawthorne's abrupt disappearance, Everly struggled to regain control of her emotions. Her heart oscillated wildly between confusion, anger, and a lingering sense of longing she couldn't quite suppress. No matter how hard she tried to dismiss the night they'd shared as meaningless, Karsten's words and his gentle yet passionate touch haunted her every waking thought. Determined not to appear weak, Everly threw herself back into Manhattan's bustling social scene. She attended galas and charity events, wearing a carefully practiced smile and moving gracefully among the city's powerful elite. But no amount of distraction could erase Karsten from her mind. She found herself unconsciously scanning every crowd, hoping, fearing, she might catch a glimpse of his tall, confident figure. Each time, disappointment cut deeply when he never appeared. One evening, as Everly prepared to attend another high-profile fundraiser, she received an unexpected call. Picking up her phone, she was startled to see an unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, she answered, her voice cautious. Everly Layton. Miss Layton, my name is Callum Drake, came a smooth yet formal voice. I'm Karsten Hawthorne's attorney. I apologize for contacting you directly, but there are some things regarding Mr. Hawthorne that I think you should be aware of. Her pulse immediately quickened, a strange anxiety tightening her chest. What things? I'd prefer not to discuss it over the phone, Callum replied evenly. Can we meet privately? Perhaps tonight? Everly hesitated briefly before agreeing, curiosity and dread warring inside her. They arranged to meet at an upscale cafe near Central Park within the hour. Everly arrived first, anxiously sipping her coffee as she waited. When Callum Drake entered, she recognized him immediately by his dignified bearing, precise movements, and sharp, discerning eyes. He sat across from her, meeting her gaze seriously. Thank you for meeting me, he began politely. Karsten is unaware I'm here. I've known him for over 15 years, and this is the first time I've ever breached his privacy. But this is important. Everly listened intently, her heart beating faster. Please, tell me what's going on. Callum paused briefly, collecting his thoughts carefully. Karsten Hawthorne has lived his life under the shadow of a powerful, manipulative family. The Hawthorne legacy comes with secrets, and tragedy. Every generation of Hawthorne men has lost their life or sanity after falling deeply in love. Karsten's father and grandfather both died under mysterious circumstances shortly after marrying women the family deemed unsuitable. Everly's eyes widened, a chill running through her. What does that mean exactly? It means Karsten has grown up believing love is dangerous, Callum explained gravely. After his father's death, his mother, Loretta Hawthorne, raised Karsten with one clear message: love destroys men of the Hawthorne bloodline. She drilled this fear into him relentlessly, using his father and grandfather as examples of love's deadly consequences. Everly felt sickened, imagining Karsten burdened by such an unbearable weight. But why would his mother do something so cruel? To control him, Callum said bluntly. Loretta is ruthless. She convinced Karsten that his father's death was directly linked to his falling in love. To Karsten, falling for you means placing your life, and his own, in danger. Everly's mind raced, memories of Karsten's words that night suddenly clearer, his fear, his withdrawal. It all made sense now, yet still seemed impossibly twisted. But that's absurd, Everly argued softly. He can't really believe he's cursed. Callum shook his head solemnly. Karsten isn't superstitious. But men in his family have truly died in suspicious circumstances, and Loretta made sure the fear was powerful enough to isolate him. Until now, he's avoided meaningful relationships entirely. But after spending one night with you, he panicked, he fears he's doomed you both. Everly exhaled shakily, heart aching for Karsten. What can I do? How do I help him? Convince him the curse isn't real, Callum urged quietly. Show him that love isn't destructive. You're the first woman who's made Karsten question everything he's ever been taught. His walls began crumbling with you. But Loretta won't allow it. She will try to remove you from his life. Be cautious, Miss Layton. Loretta Hawthorne is dangerous. Everly left the cafe feeling simultaneously shaken and determined. She knew now exactly why Karsten had run from her, why he'd left that heartbreaking note. But instead of driving her away, Callum's warning ignited within her a powerful resolve. She refused to let Karsten's mother dictate their fate or manipulate his life any longer. Later that night, she gathered her courage and went directly to Karsten's penthouse. Security at the entrance hesitated but, recognizing her from before, allowed her entry. She rode the elevator to his suite, her heart pounding furiously. When Karsten opened the door, shock and distress filled his eyes. "Everly, you shouldn't be here." "I know everything, Karsten," she stated firmly, stepping forward into his space, refusing to let him push her away again. "I spoke with Callum Drake." Anger flashed briefly across Karsten's face, but faded into resignation. "Then you know why you must leave." "No," Everly challenged fiercely, voice trembling with emotion. "I know why you think I should. Your mother filled your mind with lies, made you believe you're cursed. But you're not. Love doesn't kill, Karsten, fear does." His expression softened, his steel-gray eyes tormented yet vulnerable. "Everly, I cannot risk your life. I've already lost too much." She gently touched his face, forcing him to meet her gaze. "You haven't lost me. But you will if you push me away again. Trust me, trust yourself. Together, we can face your past and finally break free." He hesitated, visibly torn between fear and longing, finally pulling her close with a desperation that spoke volumes. "You don't know what you're risking." "Yes, I do," Everly whispered fiercely. "But you're worth it." For the first time, she saw hope flicker within his eyes. She knew the battle ahead wouldn't be easy, but tonight, standing in Karsten's embrace, she refused to surrender to fear. Together, they would uncover the truth, confront Loretta Hawthorne's cruel legacy, and prove that love could conquer even the darkest of pasts. The following days passed in a whirlwind of uncertainty and hidden fears, yet Everly and Karsten faced them together, refusing to be driven apart again. Everly moved cautiously, sensing she was stepping onto dangerous ground, but the alternative, losing Karsten, felt far worse. For the first time in years, she had allowed someone beyond her carefully constructed walls, and she wouldn't let his mother's manipulations destroy what they had just begun to build. Karsten, however, was visibly unsettled. Despite Everly's steady presence, his tension grew, shadows lingering behind his steel-gray eyes. Each morning, he seemed haunted by fears rooted deeply in his past. Everly could see he battled internally, fighting years of ingrained warnings drilled into him by Loretta. The weight of his family's sinister history hung heavy upon his shoulders, threatening to overwhelm him again. Determined to learn more, Everly suggested cautiously one evening, "Karsten, perhaps if we confronted your mother directly." "No," Karsten interrupted sharply, a dark edge in his voice. "Loretta isn't someone you confront easily. She'll use everything and everyone to control me. If she believes you threaten her hold on me, she'll stop at nothing to hurt you." Everly studied his face quietly. "Then maybe we should find another way. What about someone who knows your family's secrets, someone you trust? Surely, your mother can't control everyone." Karsten hesitated, his expression conflicted. Then, finally, he spoke softly. "There's one person, my younger brother, Jericho. He disappeared 5 years ago after a heated fight with Loretta. If anyone could shed light on the truth behind our family's tragedies, it would be him." Everly reached out gently, squeezing his hand in encouragement. "Then we find Jericho." Karsten stared at her, a mixture of admiration and anxiety crossing his face. "Are you sure you're prepared to uncover this? Once you do, there's no going back." "Karsten," she whispered fiercely, "there was no going back the moment I fell for you." The next few days were spent discreetly searching for Jericho Hawthorne. Using his resources carefully to avoid Loretta's detection, Karsten finally discovered that Jericho was living a secluded life in a remote coastal town in Maine, deliberately isolated and hidden away from the world. Without hesitation, they made the journey north together, knowing it might hold answers or dangers neither fully understood. The drive to Maine was tense yet comforting, each mile they traveled together strengthened their bond. Arriving in the small seaside village, they found Jericho living in a modest house overlooking the turbulent Atlantic waves. When Karsten knocked on his door, Jericho appeared, wary at first, then astonished at seeing his brother again after years of separation. "Karsten." Jericho spoke softly, disbelief evident in his voice. His gaze shifted to Everly, eyes narrowing cautiously. "Who's she?" "This is Everly Layton," Karsten explained firmly. "She's why I'm here, Jericho. She made me question everything Loretta ever taught us." Jericho regarded Everly quietly, then nodded, stepping aside. "Come inside. You need to know the truth." The interior of Jericho's home was cozy yet sparse, clearly a reflection of his desire for isolation. Sitting together around a wooden table, Jericho spoke openly, bitterness and sadness coloring his voice. "The family curse Loretta drilled into us, it's a lie. A cruel manipulation. Our father and grandfather didn't die because they fell in love. They died because Loretta saw their happiness as a threat to her control over the family fortune. She eliminated any woman they loved, breaking their spirits first, and ultimately causing their deaths." Karsten visibly paled, his hands trembling slightly. "You mean our mother killed anyone she perceived as competition," Jericho finished coldly. "She poisoned our father emotionally first, convincing him he was cursed. When that failed, she arranged accidents, covered up crimes, and manipulated evidence. Loretta isn't a mother, she's a monster obsessed with power." Everly reached out silently, gripping Karsten's hand as his expression darkened with shock, fury, and grief. "All these years, I believed it was my fault, that loving anyone meant their destruction." "Exactly what Loretta wanted," Jericho said sadly. "She ensured you'd never challenge her authority. But seeing you now, Karsten, I realize she underestimated Everly. She didn't anticipate you finding someone strong enough to stand against her." "What can we do?" Everly asked urgently, determination fierce in her eyes. "Loretta needs to be stopped." Jericho hesitated, a shadow of fear passing briefly over his face. "I've gathered proof over the years, secret records, documents, even a confession from a former servant. But if Loretta discovers any of this, she'll retaliate viciously. She already suspects I know too much." Karsten's jaw tightened resolutely. "Give me everything, Jericho. Loretta has controlled our lives long enough." Returning to New York with Jericho's evidence carefully concealed, Karsten and Everly began meticulously piecing together Loretta Hawthorne's dark past. Late into the night, they worked side by side, compiling records of falsified accidents, payments to hush witnesses, even letters proving Loretta's direct involvement in the deaths of women who had loved Hawthorne men before. Throughout their efforts, Everly felt Karsten changing. He was no longer the distant billionaire guarded by fear. Instead, she watched him transform into a man determined to reclaim control over his life. Each document strengthened his resolve, each discovery empowering them both to face whatever consequences awaited. One night, as they sat amid piles of incriminating papers, Karsten turned toward Everly, exhaustion evident but eyes burning with determination. "I never believed I could break free of Loretta's influence. But you changed that, Everly, you're my strength. You're stronger than you realize," she whispered softly, gently brushing his hair back from his forehead. "You chose to face this, Karsten. You chose truth over fear." His gaze softened, gratitude and love shining clearly in his eyes. "Only because I found you." Their lips met tenderly, a promise passing silently between them. But their brief respite was interrupted suddenly by Karsten's phone vibrating sharply. Seeing Callum Drake's name appear, he answered urgently. "Karsten, Loretta knows," Callum's voice was strained, panicked. "She discovered your investigation. She's furious, dangerous. Everly isn't safe." Karsten's eyes filled instantly with dread. "Where is she now?" "She's on her way to you, right now. You must leave immediately. Karsten hung up, turning quickly toward Everly. We have to leave now, he said firmly, already pulling her up from the chair, heart racing with fear. Everly nodded resolutely, quickly gathering their evidence. They rushed from the apartment, hearts pounding as they fled into the night, knowing Loretta was close behind. Together, they now faced their greatest test, not only to reveal the truth but to survive the wrath of a woman willing to destroy anything and anyone standing between her and absolute control. Everly and Karsten fled through the dimly lit streets of Manhattan, hearts racing with urgency. Each step felt heavier with the knowledge that Loretta Hawthorne was aware of their defiance and determined to punish them. Karsten's jaw remained clenched tightly as he drove, his knuckles white against the steering wheel, tension radiating from him in palpable waves. Everly sat beside him, gripping the folder of incriminating documents that proved Loretta's sinister deeds, knowing the evidence they carried was powerful enough to destroy everything Loretta had carefully built. We can't stay in New York, Karsten spoke abruptly, his voice taut with anxiety. Loretta's reach here is too vast. She'll find us easily. Then where can we go? Everly asked quietly, glancing at him with concern. We need somewhere safe, somewhere she wouldn't expect. Karsten hesitated briefly before answering softly. I have a property, isolated and off-grid, in upstate Vermont. Loretta doesn't know about it, no one does. We'll hide there until we figure out our next move. Everly nodded slowly, accepting his decision. They drove through the night, leaving behind the glittering chaos of the city. Hours later, as dawn broke gently over the horizon, they arrived at Karsten's hidden sanctuary. The rustic cabin nestled discreetly among tall pines and dense wilderness, providing the seclusion they desperately needed. Inside, Everly felt a temporary sense of safety wash over her, despite the storm they knew awaited them beyond this refuge. In the days that followed, Karsten worked diligently to organize their evidence, consulting discreetly by phone with Callum Drake and Jericho, who promised to aid them remotely. Everly stood by his side, her own strength bolstered by his unwavering determination. Together, they prepared meticulously for the confrontation they knew was inevitable. Yet, even in their isolation, neither could shake the persistent anxiety that shadowed them. Everly noticed how Karsten grew restless with each passing day, haunted by fears he could no longer suppress. One evening, as a fierce storm battered the cabin with relentless winds and rain, she found him pacing anxiously near the fireplace, clearly distressed. Karsten, talk to me, Everly said gently, approaching cautiously. You're tormenting yourself again. He turned slowly, his eyes filled with turmoil. I keep thinking of what Loretta has done to every woman connected to the Hawthorne family. What if I've put you in more danger by loving you? Everly closed the distance quickly, taking his face firmly between her palms. Listen carefully, she whispered fiercely, holding his gaze unwaveringly. Your mother controlled your entire life through fear. You broke free, you chose love, truth, and courage over her manipulations. She has no power over us now, not unless we allow it. Karsten's eyes softened, drawing strength from her words. I can face anything, Everly, but the thought of losing you terrifies me. You won't lose me, she promised solemnly, pressing her forehead gently to his. I refuse to give Loretta that victory. Reassured by her steady resolve, Karsten finally nodded, visibly strengthened. However, their brief moment of calm shattered abruptly as headlights illuminated the cabin windows. Karsten froze, fear flooding his eyes. She found us, he breathed harshly. They swiftly extinguished the lights, grabbing the evidence folder and retreating silently into the shadows of the small, dimly lit room. Outside, the sound of footsteps crunching through gravel echoed loudly, followed by the chilling voice of Loretta Hawthorne herself. Karsten, I know you're inside. It's pointless to hide. Karsten's fists clenched, but Everly placed a calming hand on his arm, silently urging restraint. After a tense silence, Loretta continued coldly. You disappoint me, Karsten. Choosing this woman over family loyalty. It's pathetic. Karsten stepped forward suddenly, defiance in his voice. Your lies won't control me anymore, Loretta. You destroyed everyone who ever threatened your power, but it ends here. Everly joined him, unafraid now to face the woman responsible for so much suffering. Loretta stared at her coldly, contempt and hatred clear in her eyes. You think you're special, Miss Layton? You're just another foolish girl who believes love conquers all. Let me enlighten you, it doesn't. Love makes people weak, vulnerable, and easily broken. You're wrong, Everly countered confidently. Your cruelty, your obsession with control, that's weakness. Karsten sees you clearly now. He sees what you truly are. Loretta's eyes darkened dangerously. And soon he'll see your corpse, too. You will never survive crossing me. Before either could react, Loretta stepped back into the darkness, leaving behind only chilling silence. Moments later, tires spun violently as her car vanished into the night. Everly exhaled shakily, heart still racing. Karsten, what will she do next? Karsten shook his head grimly. She won't stop until she's destroyed us completely. Determined to end Loretta's reign of terror, Karsten called Callum immediately, urgently instructing him to deliver their evidence to authorities and press, exposing Loretta's crimes once and for all. The next morning, headlines erupted nationwide, detailing the explosive revelations about Loretta Hawthorne, murders disguised as tragic accidents, manipulation, blackmail, and betrayal spanning decades. Within hours, Loretta was arrested at her Manhattan estate, a storm of media and authorities surrounding her. Despite their relief, Everly and Karsten remained cautious, knowing the woman who'd controlled an empire through fear wouldn't surrender without retaliation. Their intuition proved correct when Callum called hours later, his voice strained. Loretta escaped custody during transport, he said urgently. She's armed, desperate, and coming for you both. You must leave now. Karsten cursed sharply, swiftly gathering their belongings again. But before they could leave, the cabin door exploded inward violently. Loretta stood in the threshold, drenched by rain, gun leveled directly at Everly. You took my son from me, Loretta snarled coldly. If I can't control him, neither will you. Time slowed to a crawl as Loretta squeezed the trigger, but Karsten lunged, throwing himself in front of Everly as the shot echoed deafeningly through the room. Everly screamed, catching Karsten as he fell heavily, blood rapidly staining his shirt. Karsten, she sobbed desperately, cradling him gently, feeling helpless panic rise within her. Behind them, Loretta stepped forward to finish what she'd started, but before she could fire again, a second shot rang out suddenly, and Loretta collapsed, eyes wide in shock. In the doorway stood Jericho, gun trembling in his hand. Everly, Jericho shouted urgently, racing forward to help. We need to get him out of here now. Together they carried Karsten swiftly toward Jericho's waiting car, the storm outside mirroring the chaos within Everly's heart. As they sped desperately toward the nearest hospital, Everly held Karsten tightly, tears streaming down her face. You're going to survive, she pleaded fiercely. Please, Karsten, stay with me. He opened his eyes weakly, forcing a faint smile. I promised I'd protect you, he murmured softly, voice strained with pain. I meant it. As Karsten's eyes closed slowly, Everly's heart shattered, fear overwhelming her completely. She prayed desperately that fate would grant them another chance, a future together free from fear, lies, and tragedy. But in that moment, with Karsten barely clinging to life, Everly understood clearly, to save him, she'd face anything, even death itself. The hospital waiting room felt oppressively sterile, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights that amplified Everly's anxiety. She paced anxiously, her heart gripped by fear, eyes repeatedly darting toward the double doors through which Karsten had been rushed into emergency surgery. Jericho stood silently nearby, his expression tight and grim, equally burdened by the uncertain fate of his older brother. Hours passed painfully slowly, filled only by the hushed murmurs of hospital staff and the intermittent hum of machinery. Finally, a weary-looking surgeon emerged from the doors, his expression cautiously neutral. "Miss Layton?" the doctor asked quietly. "Yes," Everly answered urgently, her voice strained, desperately searching his eyes for reassurance. "How is Karsten?" "He survived the surgery," the doctor explained carefully. "But the bullet did significant damage. He lost a lot of blood, and his condition remains critical. The next 48 hours are crucial." Everly's chest tightened painfully, tears stinging her eyes. "Can I see him?" The surgeon nodded gently. "Briefly. He's sedated and very weak, but your presence might comfort him." Everly followed swiftly, heart aching with every step. Entering Karsten's room, she paused, overwhelmed by grief. Karsten lay pale and motionless, connected to various monitors that beeped softly, tracing his fragile heartbeat. Taking his hand gently, she fought tears, leaning closer. "Karsten, you promised you'd protect me," she whispered brokenly, voice trembling. "But I never wanted you to sacrifice yourself. Please fight, I need you. You can't leave me." She sat vigil at his bedside, holding his hand tightly, whispering reassurances, memories, promises of a future free from pain. Hours passed in a blur, exhaustion eventually claiming her as she drifted into troubled sleep, still holding his hand. She awoke abruptly hours later, sensing a presence. Turning quickly, she saw Jericho standing silently at the doorway, his face shadowed by uncertainty and remorse. "Jericho?" Everly asked softly, gently releasing Karsten's hand and stepping toward him. "Are you okay?" He hesitated, pain etched clearly on his face. "I never meant for Karsten to get hurt," he confessed quietly. "When I confronted Loretta, I didn't imagine she'd take it this far." Everly placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "This isn't your fault, Jericho. Loretta chose her path, she tried to destroy your brother, your family. You saved us tonight." Jericho shook his head bitterly. "I should have stopped her long ago. Instead, I hid, allowing Karsten to bear everything alone. He always tried to protect me, even when we were children. I owe him everything." "Then help him now," Everly urged earnestly. "Stay by his side, be there when he wakes. Let him know you're here." Jericho nodded slowly, gratitude in his eyes. "I will." Days passed with agonizing slowness, Everly never leaving Karsten's side for more than minutes at a time. His condition gradually stabilized, though he remained unconscious. Everly refused to lose hope, speaking softly to him every day, reminding him of their shared dreams and the life they planned together. Then, on the fourth night, as Everly gently held Karsten's hand and whispered softly about the future they might yet have, she felt a faint pressure against her fingers. Startled, she looked up quickly, heart racing with hope. "Karsten?" she whispered urgently, leaning closer, eyes fixed desperately on his face. Slowly, painfully, Karsten's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then gradually settling on her. His lips moved weakly, struggling to speak. Everly, his voice barely audible, filled with confusion and pain. Tears of relief spilled down her cheeks as she smiled through them. "I'm here," she reassured him tenderly, gently brushing back his hair. "I never left you." Karsten's gaze slowly cleared, memory returning sharply. "Loretta," he whispered, sudden panic flooding his eyes. "She can't hurt us anymore," Everly quickly reassured him. Jericho stopped her. "She's gone, Karsten, finally." Karsten exhaled shakily, visibly relieved. "Jericho?" he asked, emotion thick in his voice. "He's here," Everly confirmed gently. "He never left your side, either." Karsten closed his eyes briefly, gratitude evident. When he opened them again, they glistened with unshed tears. "Everly, I was so afraid I'd lost you." "You'll never lose me," she vowed fiercely, voice trembling with sincerity. "We faced everything together, we survived. I refuse to spend another moment without you." Karsten squeezed her hand weakly, determination returning to his eyes. Then I'll recover quickly. You deserve the life I promised. True to his word, Karsten slowly began healing over the following days, strength returning gradually under Everly's constant care. News of Loretta's death spread through the media, painting her as the ruthless woman she'd been, a criminal mastermind who terrorized her own family for power and control. Despite public scrutiny, Everly shielded Karsten fiercely, protecting him from unwanted attention, allowing him the peace needed for recovery. Jericho visited regularly, mending the strained relationship with his brother, their bond deepening as they openly shared their past hurts and hopes for the future. Everly watched with quiet joy as the brothers rebuilt trust, strengthened by shared adversity. Weeks later, as Karsten's health improved dramatically, he returned home with Everly by his side. Their first evening back was quiet yet profound, filled with gratitude and reflection. Sitting together beneath the warmth of the fireplace, Karsten held Everly tenderly, his embrace gentle but possessive. You changed everything, Everly, he spoke softly, eyes shining with love. Without you, I'd have remained trapped by fear and lies forever. She smiled gently, placing a hand lovingly against his cheek. No, Karsten, we changed each other. You taught me love doesn't have to hurt or destroy, it can heal and strengthen, even against impossible odds. Karsten took a deep breath, sincerity filling his gaze. Will you marry me, Everly? Officially, openly, without secrets or fears. Joy illuminated her eyes as she nodded immediately. Yes, Karsten, always yes. Their kiss sealed the promise, filled with hope, healing, and an unbreakable bond forged from trials they'd survived together. Yet, even in this moment of newfound peace, both understood clearly that their battle scars would remain forever etched deeply within. They'd faced evil, betrayal, and near death, but they emerged stronger, wiser, fiercely protective of the love they'd fought desperately to preserve. Now, holding tightly to one another, Everly and Karsten knew their future wouldn't always be free from shadows, but their love, tested relentlessly, would guide them safely through any storm ahead. And together, bound by courage and truth, they would never allow fear to control them again. As winter gently settled over New York, blanketing the city in silvery snow, Everly and Karsten finally found themselves reclaiming a sense of normalcy. Weeks had passed since Loretta's downfall, yet the emotional scars she'd inflicted lingered silently beneath the surface. Together, they navigated the fragile peace they'd earned, cautiously rebuilding trust and confidence in a future now free from fear. The media frenzy surrounding Loretta Hawthorne's shocking crimes gradually faded, replaced by fresh scandals that captivated the public's restless attention. Karsten's health steadily improved, his strength returning fully as he resumed a quieter, more purposeful life away from the public eye. He chose to step back from the intense demands of Hawthorne Technologies, entrusting Jericho with greater responsibilities, a gesture of deep faith and reconciliation that further strengthened their brotherly bond. Everly, too, embraced their new life wholeheartedly. She returned to her passion for painting, finding solace and expression through her artwork. Yet, more importantly, she discovered genuine fulfillment simply by sharing quiet, intimate moments with Karsten. Their shared trauma had forged an unbreakable bond, a love tempered by pain yet strengthened immeasurably by mutual courage. One evening, as snow softly drifted down outside their penthouse windows, Karsten entered the cozy living room, quietly approaching Everly as she painted. She stood before her easel, immersed deeply in the canvas, capturing Manhattan's glittering skyline with strokes of delicate precision. He watched her silently, admiration and deep affection warming his expression. Finally sensing his presence, Everly turned slowly, smiling gently as she met his gaze. Karsten, how long have you been standing there? Long enough to know I'm the luckiest man alive, he replied softly, stepping closer and wrapping his arms around her waist. He glanced thoughtfully at her painting. Your work is stunning. But there's something I'd like you to see tonight, something important. Curiosity brightened her eyes. What is it? Karsten hesitated briefly, then guided her toward the coat rack by the entrance. "Trust me," he said warmly, helping her into a heavy winter coat. "It's worth it." Together, they descended into the snowy night, Manhattan Street serene under a fresh layer of powdery white. Karsten led Everly to his waiting car, and soon they were driving through the city toward an unknown destination. Everly leaned comfortably against him, feeling both anticipation and quiet contentment in his presence. Eventually, they arrived at a historic townhouse nestled in a quiet, elegant neighborhood on the Upper West Side. Karsten opened the door, guiding Everly carefully inside. Her eyes widened with surprise as she took in the beautifully furnished interior, tastefully decorated with antiques and soft, inviting warmth. "Karsten, what is this place?" she asked softly, awestruck. He smiled gently, eyes shining with sincerity. "Our future home, if you want it to be. A place untouched by our past, where we can build new memories, together." Everly felt a rush of emotion, turning slowly to face him. "You bought this for us?" "Yes," he answered simply. "Because you deserve a home free from darkness, Everly. A place filled only with love and happiness." She embraced him fiercely, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. "It's perfect." He took her hand gently, guiding her through each room. Eventually, they reached the master suite, where Karsten stopped abruptly, clearly nervous yet determined. Everly noticed his tension, gently touching his arm in reassurance. "What is it, Karsten?" He took a steadying breath, eyes meeting hers with deep sincerity. "I realized we've faced everything imaginable, except officially beginning our lives together. So tonight, I want to give you this." Reaching into his coat pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box, opening it carefully to reveal a breathtaking sapphire ring surrounded by tiny diamonds, reflecting brilliantly under the soft lighting. "This belonged to my grandmother, the only woman in my family who ever defied fear and truly lived for love," Karsten explained quietly. "I want you to wear it as proof that we broke Loretta's curse forever." Everly's breath caught softly in her throat. "Karsten, it's beautiful." "Everly Layton," he began tenderly, voice full of love and hope, "will you officially become my wife, not just privately, but openly, proudly, without reservation?" Her voice shook with emotion yet determination shone brightly in her eyes. "Nothing could make me happier, Karsten. Yes, I'll marry you, proudly, openly, and without reservation." He slipped the ring gently onto her finger, sealing their future firmly and undeniably together. They shared a lingering kiss, the promise of their new beginning filling the air around them. But before they could fully celebrate, Karsten's phone buzzed suddenly, disrupting their moment. Concern flickered briefly in his eyes as he answered cautiously. "Karsten," Jericho's voice sounded strained, filled with unease. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but something unexpected has happened. You need to hear this." "What is it, Jericho?" Karsten demanded, tension returning quickly. "Someone anonymously sent evidence to the authorities. Letters implicating Loretta had another accomplice, someone working closely with her," Jericho explained rapidly. "They believe this person is still actively seeking revenge against you and Everly." Karsten's expression darkened sharply. "Who?" "The police don't yet know," Jericho answered gravely. "But Karsten, whoever it is, they've been watching closely. There was a note attached specifically mentioning Everly." Karsten's eyes filled instantly with protective anger, turning sharply toward Everly, who watched anxiously. "I'll handle it, Jericho. We'll talk soon." Ending the call, Karsten pulled Everly protectively close, determination fierce in his eyes. "I won't let anyone threaten our happiness again, Everly. Whoever is doing this, I'll stop them." Everly placed her palm gently against his chest, feeling the rapid heartbeat beneath. "Karsten, we've faced worse. Together, nothing can break us." His gaze softened slightly, yet urgency remained clear. "I promised you peace, Everly. Whoever remains loyal to Loretta, they won't destroy what we've built. They returned quickly to their penthouse, preparations swiftly beginning again as Karsten gathered his resources, determined to uncover the hidden enemy threatening their newfound peace. That night, Everly lay awake beside Karsten, his arms protectively holding her close, each silently contemplating the darkness that once again hovered dangerously close. Yet, despite the lingering threat, Everly felt no fear, not now, with Karsten beside her, their love stronger than ever. As snow softly continued falling outside, Everly made a silent vow: no matter who emerged from the shadows, no matter how determined they were to destroy her happiness, she would stand firm beside Karsten, unwavering, prepared to fight again for the life they'd built through courage and sacrifice. Because Everly knew, with absolute certainty, that nothing, not vengeance, betrayal, nor lingering darkness, could overpower a love proven to withstand any storm. Days passed with an intensity that left Everly feeling constantly on edge. Karsten poured every resource available into uncovering the identity of Loretta's hidden accomplice, determined to protect Everly at all costs. Security around them was increased dramatically, guards discreetly positioned outside their home, surveillance tightened, and yet uncertainty lingered like a constant shadow. Despite the looming threat, Everly and Karsten pressed forward with preparations for their wedding, refusing to let fear disrupt their plans for happiness. Everly had chosen an intimate ceremony set in a quiet countryside estate far from the chaos of Manhattan, hoping distance might afford them peace and safety. The day before the wedding, as Everly stood in the beautiful, secluded estate garden, finalizing arrangements with their wedding planner, her phone vibrated urgently. Seeing an unknown number, anxiety tightened her chest, but she answered cautiously. Everly Layton, she spoke hesitantly. A distorted, mechanical voice responded coldly. Did you really think marrying Karsten would erase the past? Tomorrow, everything you love will burn. Enjoy your final night of happiness. The call abruptly ended, leaving Everly trembling. She quickly sought Karsten, finding him speaking quietly with Jericho near the front entrance. As she approached, Karsten immediately noticed her distress, stepping forward swiftly. Everly, what's wrong? I received a threat, she whispered urgently, fear evident in her eyes. Someone called, saying tomorrow they'll destroy everything. Karsten's eyes darkened dangerously, voice tight with anger. Whoever this person is, they won't touch you. I'll triple security immediately. Jericho placed a reassuring hand gently on Everly's shoulder. We'll handle this, Everly. You focus on tomorrow, Karsten and I will protect you. That evening, Karsten stayed close by her side, vigilance evident in his every move. Yet despite their precautions, Everly felt uneasy. Sleep eluded her entirely as she lay beside Karsten, his steady breathing offering temporary comfort. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her briefly, slipping into a restless sleep filled with troubled dreams. She awoke suddenly hours later, sensing movement nearby. Heart racing, she turned swiftly, only to find Karsten's side of the bed empty, sheets cold beneath her hand. Panic surged as she quickly rose, grabbing a robe and silently moving through the darkened estate halls, desperately seeking him. Hearing faint voices downstairs, she cautiously approached, hidden in shadows as she listened carefully. Her heart froze as she recognized Karsten's voice, strained, angry, confronting someone. Why are you doing this? Karsten demanded sharply. You were loyal to Loretta all along. Why betray us now? Everly moved closer silently, eyes widening in shock as she finally saw the face of the accomplice standing defiantly before Karsten, Callum Drake. You took everything from me, Karsten, Callum sneered bitterly. I served Loretta faithfully, ensuring your wealth, your power, and you destroyed it all. Now you'll know how betrayal feels. Tomorrow, at your precious wedding, you'll lose everything. Everly won't survive. Karsten lunged toward Callum furiously, but Callum swiftly produced a gun, aiming directly at him. Everly cried out instinctively, drawing their attention abruptly. Everly, run! Karsten shouted desperately, fear filling his eyes. But Everly stood frozen, Callum's gun now shifting toward her, malice glinting coldly in his gaze. "Perfect timing, Miss Layton," Callum said cruelly. "Now Karsten can watch you die." Before Callum could fire, a shot rang out loudly from behind Everly, Jericho appearing suddenly, gun aimed steadily. Callum staggered backward, wounded, but quickly recovered, returning fire as Jericho took cover. Karsten seized the momentary distraction, charging Callum fiercely, knocking the weapon away as they grappled violently. Everly watched in horror as both men struggled intensely, each strike brutal. Finally, Karsten gained the upper hand, subduing Callum decisively, pinning him firmly to the ground. "Karsten!" Everly rushed toward him, relief flooding her as Karsten stood shakily, breathing heavily, exhausted yet alive. Authorities arrived swiftly, arresting Callum and securing the estate thoroughly. Only after everything was calm again did Karsten finally pull Everly into a fierce embrace, holding her tightly, his heartbeat racing beneath her palm. "I almost lost you again," Karsten whispered brokenly. "I'm so sorry, Everly." "No," she soothed him tenderly, gently touching his face. "You saved me, Karsten, you protected our future. It's finally over." The next morning dawned bright and clear, as though the night's terror had never happened. Everly and Karsten stood beneath a graceful arch adorned with white roses, sunlight warming their faces gently as they exchanged vows before only their closest friends, family, and Jericho. Everly wore a simple yet stunning white gown, Karsten elegant and calm, their eyes meeting tenderly as they spoke heartfelt promises. When the officiant declared them husband and wife, their kiss sealed a union far beyond simple marriage, a bond forged by survival, strengthened by adversity, unbreakable now by any force that might threaten their happiness. That evening, as celebrations quieted, Karsten led Everly away privately, toward a secluded terrace overlooking a tranquil lake, moonlight shimmering softly across the water. "Everly," Karsten spoke gently, sincerity filling his gaze. "Our journey was brutal, painful, filled with darkness, but I'd endure it all again just to find you." She smiled lovingly, stepping closer. "Our love overcame everything, Karsten. Loretta, Callum, fear itself. Now we finally have peace. Forever," he vowed softly, voice filled with certainty. "I promise you safety, love, and happiness every day forward." Their kiss beneath the moonlight was tender, full of promises silently exchanged, hope radiating brightly between them. Together, they'd overcome unimaginable trials, emerging stronger, wiser, and ready now to embrace the future without reservation. Weeks later, Everly and Karsten stood together outside the Hawthorne family estate, now empty and silent, its dark legacy finally ended. Karsten took Everly's hand, resolutely meeting her gaze. "Let's leave it behind forever," he declared firmly. "Our legacy will be love, courage, and freedom, not fear." As they turned away, walking hand in hand toward the waiting car, Everly felt an overwhelming sense of triumph. They'd faced evil, deception, heartbreak, and nearly lost each other along the way, but their love endured, growing ever stronger through each challenge. Driving away, Everly glanced back one final time at the estate fading behind them, whispering softly, "Goodbye to fear." Karsten squeezed her hand reassuringly, smiling warmly. "And hello to our future, together." With those words, Everly leaned against him, finally free to dream without shadows, knowing the love they'd fought relentlessly for was now theirs to cherish forever.